Justin Trudeau knew. The Liberal government knew. The Liberal cabinet knew. Which means the current Liberal cabinet knows. Mark Carney keeps bragging that he has his security clearance. Well, guess what that means? That means that Mark Carney knows. The pieces of the puzzle are starting to fall into place as more information comes out about Beijing's interference plans with our election, Mark Carney's deep ties with China, and how the Liberal campaign has been unfolding. While it may not be much of a surprise, it is certainly no less disturbing. What am I talking about? Well, it seems that the government was warned by CSIS way back in 2021 that everything that is occurring in this election was going to happen. Let's take a look. From the Bureau and our good friend Sam Cooper. CSIS warned Beijing would brand conservatives as Trumpian. Now Carney's campaign is doing it. Ottawa. Canadian intelligence reported in 2021 that Beijing planned to interfere in Canada's next federal election with disinformation suggesting the Conservatives, quote, will follow the path of Donald Trump, end quote, a narrative now echoed in a clandestine dirty tricks operation exposed inside Prime Minister Mark Carney's campaign. The warning comes from a classified CSIS bulletin dated December 20th, 2021, and marked secret, distributed to Canadian departments including Global Affairs Canada, the Privy Council Office, the Communications Security Establishment, and Five Eyes intelligence partners. The report was based on information from Chinese consular officials in Canada. So, what's that basically saying? Well, turns out that the government knew that this was going to happen in terms of the Chinese interference in the next federal election. And what's even a little bit more disturbing is that the Five Eyes also knew that, and that includes the United States. So, yeah, no wonder the United States is not too happy about our stance on China, and CSIS even told the government that. So this means that Justin Trudeau, the current Liberal cabinet, because the current Liberal cabinet is, for all intents and purposes, the old Liberal cabinet, they all knew and didn't seem to worry about it. Didn't bother to tell anybody about it. Didn't bother to tell Canadians about it. They just decided to, embrace it. Because let's not forget what happened the other day with Buttongate. Remember this? When Liberal operatives planted Stop the Steal buttons at Conservative conference and tried to sow disarray within the Conservative Party by crossing out the current campaign manager's Jenny Burns' name and putting Corey Tedecki, or whatever his name is. He's just... I don't even have any words for Corey at the moment. How dare you call yourself a conservative and publicly call out a conservative campaign in the middle of the campaign? This is the ridiculous part of this. But you have these liberals that infiltrated one of the conservative conferences that ironically no conservative politicians were attending, and they tried to put these buttons all over the place to then try to brand conservative voters as Trumpians and then associate that with the Conservative Party. So this is the real disturbing thing, folks. Is it a surprise that the Liberals tried to leverage Trump in order to kind of influence this election? No, not really. But the disgusting thing is that they used their knowledge of what China was going to do to actually further that influence in the campaign. So they knew that China was going to say, hey, voters, Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives are just like Trump. You better stay away from them. So they used that knowledge to then set up their own operation. Or do you one better? Mark Carney meets with China back in the fall, basically lays out what he's going to do and says, hey, so I'm going to be doing this and we're going to need a loan for my company. And if you give us that loan, maybe I can, scratch your back when I'm the prime minister, because odds are Trudeau's not going to be there and I will be the leader of the party. And when we go to a federal election, Wouldn't be so bad if you guys scratched my back there to help me get elected. Imagine if that happened. You could very easily see that happening based on everything that has transpired, based on how soft he was on Paul Chang, based on the fact that right after Paul Chang, they appointed another candidate with ties to Beijing. He went over to even watch a parade, like a military parade in China. What are you doing over there if you're so Canadian? But, you know, we're told that these guys have lots of integrity because they've served the Canadian community for the past 20, 30 years. Well, if they served only the Canadian community for the past 20, 30 years, why are they so entrenched in the United Work Department organizations that is essentially the international arm in foreign interference of the Chinese government? Why? Canadians want to know, but this is where we're at. This is where we're at, folks. So instead of the Liberals coming out and saying, hey, just so everybody knows, this is what China's probably going to do in the next federal election to try and influence things. No, they keep that to themselves and they join in. They join in with it. So it's not the fact that the Liberals are doing the same thing as China is. It's the fact that they knew that this is what China was going to do. They didn't tell the Canadian public, and they joined in. That is what is unforgivable in this. You know that a foreign country is going to be interfering, or at least trying to interfere in the next election, and you're enabling it. That is called witting collaboration, folks. Even if China doesn't even know you're wittingly collaborating, you do. The cabinet does. The ministers do. It is reprehensible. And this is what the Liberal Party wants us to vote for. They want us to think, oh, you know, everything's changed. I don't think so. Now, let's not forget what was said at the Site Task Force meeting only a couple of weeks ago.
Christopher Nardi, National Post.
I just want to come back to the content. My last Mandarin class was 13 years ago, so I used Google to translate them. And from the examples that are in the backgrounder, it appears that the content is mostly promoting Mr. Carney's strength. I think the language that it says is United States meets Canada's tough opponent. And so, Ms. Gladzow, you mentioned something about negative and positive in the background. I didn't see that, but it appears to me from what's in here that the content is, I don't know if it's promoting Mr. Carney, but it seems very cast him in a positive light. Is that broadly what this content that you've seen, that this particular campaign, is that what it seemed to be doing overall?
We monitored over the period of time specified, and we saw positive and negative narratives. I think a really important aspect of the work that we do in site and in these briefings is to not further amplify information that is out there at the interest, at the behest of a foreign government. And so, there were positive and negative.
So many of you will remember our video on that, and if you haven't seen that, I highly encourage you to check that out. But the Site Task Force is trying to say, well, you know, there was positive and negative information and aspects of this campaign going on from Beijing in WeChat. And the reporters are saying, no, it's not. It's all positive. It's all promoting him. Meaning, they want Mark Carney to be elected, and we saw this as evidence in the JCCC website when they were saying, "Oh yeah, this is the guy that we want." You know, the organization that Mark Carney met with and then denied ever having met with them, despite the fact that, you know, there's video evidence of it. Yeah, we just won't worry about that. So, anyhow, let's take a look at the actual CSIS report from 2021. So, ladies and gentlemen, intelligence report from CSIS. In mid-November 2021, a PRC consulate official in Canada made comments about the influence of Chinese Canadian voters in the recent 2021 Canadian federal election. CSIS comment, election day was September 20th, 2021. The loss by 2 incumbent members of Parliament, or MPs, from the Conservative Party of Canada substantiated that immigrants from mainland People's Republic of China are beginning to show their strength during elections. PRC officials anticipate that in the next election, Chinese Canadian voters, redacted, to the consulate official, there are 2 reasons this trend will continue. The first is that more immigrants will become Canadian citizens and obtain voting rights. The second is that it is easy to influence Chinese immigrants to agree with the PRC's stance. According to the consulate official, ethnic Chinese voters should be influenced/educated about certain key points. Influenced or educated, notice. A. The Conservative Party of Canada is critical of the PRC and opposed to individuals from mainland PRC. B. Ethnic Chinese voters should be told that if the Conservative Party of Canada wins a federal election, the Conservative Party of Canada will follow the path of former United States President Donald Trump and ban Chinese students from certain universities or educational programs. This will threaten the future of the voters' children as it will limit their educational opportunities. So they were told way back in 2021, in the next federal election that would happen in 2025, which is where we are, China is going to be sowing a disinformation campaign against the Conservative Party of Canada, not the Liberals, and essentially label him as Trump in order to frighten the heck out of the Chinese diaspora community into voting against the Conservative Party of Canada. You can't get any more black and white than this, folks. Justin Trudeau knew. The Liberal government knew. The Liberal cabinet knew. Which means the current Liberal cabinet knows. Mark Carney keeps bragging that he has his security clearance. Well, guess what that means? That means that Mark Carney knows. And Mark Carney's campaign authorized a clandestine operation where they tried to take these buttons and distribute them within this Conservative conference in order to label these people as Trumpian, in order to align themselves with the Chinese narrative, in order to try to sow division and win the next election. Ladies and gentlemen, the longer this election goes on, the more you start to wonder, is it Mark Carney calling the shots or China?